then and again, all pieces at the end of class. And I didn't have a good slide for this, but we looked at it through that wonderful website that allows you to zoom into microscopic detail on it. So again, a huge altarpiece, right? 12 to 14 feet tall. That is hinged here and here, folds over. So most pieces will be you see the outside, which has less color, right? And then you can see the donors, the patrons, these are terms we use before, right? It's conditions of the work. Open it up, and you see heaven. Long and short of it, right? This is heavenly paradise, right down below, with saints coming in every direction to worship Christ in the form of the Lamb, God the Father up above, Mary, John the Baptist, Adam and Eve. You're taking baths here, you're taking communion for your salvation, so you should always remember why. Yeah, it's not like Adam and Eve are in heaven here, although they are because they're redeemed. But you should also just have this gentle reminder that, you screwed it up. You don't take the water of life that's running down, you're in trouble, right? Van Eyck is not the only artist in the middle of the 15th century in Northern Europe. We're talking about Belgium, right? Belgium. He's not the only artist who's like using oil paint to render pictures with an amazing amount of detail, right? And each of those details are chosen to amplify meaning, right? To add a little something else to the overall meaning of the piece, which is what we saw with right, the two different enunciations you saw with it. Now, this is one of those online sections, right? It's another 10-minute thing to talk about this. It's up in New York if you want to go see it. It's the Cloisters collection, which is part of the Met in New York, right? But the section that talks about, there's our patrons on the left, there's St. Joseph on the right, the carpenter in his shop, there's the angel and Mary, which is standard fare, right? It's really cool stuff inside of it, some of which repeats from the Ghent altarpiece, from the outside of the Ghent altarpiece, including the idea of light coming through the window, including the idea of a snuffed candle. These are all symbols for the Annunciation that I use, and so does Robert Campbell. In this case, it's a cute little baby Jesus flying in with a cross, as opposed to the dove, which is kind of cool, right? And there's more really interesting things about this. So be sure you plan that back, right? Because this is really kind of an important work from this period. But if I talk about everything at length in class, we never really get through this in 10 minutes. Just play the video back, right? Robert Campbell ran a studio where he trained artists. Most artists at this time trained under other painters, and one of his pupils was Roger Benson. Right? Proper sentences were here to go through that, right? Roger Benson was a pupil of Robert Campbell. And this is one of his very earliest works after having left that shop where he founded and going out on his own. It may even have been done while he was still in the shop. We're not 100% sure because we don't have the exact date. Right? One of the things that's fascinating, well, let's see. No, we'll get there. Van Eyck was working in the city of Bruges, and we look at the Ghent altarpiece right next to it, right? Nearby. Roger Benson ends up, after leaving Robert Campbell's studio, he settles in the city of Brussels. Now, oddly, Brussels is not on the map from the old textbook we were using, but that's where it is, right near Leuven, right in that area there. That's where Roger spent his career. And he had a different, remember when we talked about Van Eyck, we talked about the fact that he was court painter to the Duke of Burgundy, right? Good job. Where he ended up with the piece red, right? He got an annual stipend, and he got extra money whenever he got a commission. And that kept him sort of well-fed and well-healed through his life. And almost all of the people he works for are friends of the Duke of Burgundy, like the guy who commissioned the home. Roger Benson had a different kind of job. He was actually the official painter for the city of Brussels. And that meant he decorated buildings. He helped stage He decorated buildings. He provided designs for sculptures that might adorn buildings. He designed a pair of panels to decorate the Justice Hall, where you would have a were held. Right? The allegorical scene of justice being properly meted out. He probably helped stage religious rites as well that the city was mounting. Around their famous statue of the Virgin Mary, they had a bunch of drama. And we think he probably also helped stage those. There's one person who does that. But he also worked quite a few. There's probably about 3 times as many pictures by Roger Vanderbilt that survived as there are by Young Vanderbilt. He was much more productive. And this is one of his earliest ones, right? Working in the city of Brussels. The subject matter, St. George, was dispatched to slay a dragon that a city had to give a virgin to sort of every year. And he thought that was great. He was saying that. It sort of sounds like a Theseus in the Minotaur, right? Stop this craziness. Because why does he kill him? That's what he does. He goes out from the city. So there's this young maid he's going to save. And here he is slaying the dragon. And you can see, we'll see some details of this in just a second. You can already make out this remarkable detail. Every bit as much as John said. We see reflections in his armor. In fact, we'll get up close. I think you can see the dragon down below reflected in his armor. And you can see that the dragon has scales that kind of look like his armor. So he's reflected in the dragon as well. And as we move our way back into the landscape, right? So it's that same interest in sort of microscopic detail that we saw with Benai. And it's all afforded to them because they use wood, which applies in a different way with blades, and you end up not seeing the strokes. Remember when you look at John, see how he was coming in with that ever-painting, you see the individual lines on the person's cheek. You don't see that here. That's an Israel.
Yeah, I think it's the official what of Brussels?
City painter. Right? So that was his job. We don't have anyone, right? The official artist of the city. Right? We actually have, the closest we have would be like one of the Poet Laureate, right? For the United States, although they don't tend to have things they've got to do as poets. I don't have to come up with like a whole list of poems for this, right? Now, the details that we'll look at here are made all the more fantastic by the fact that that's how big it is, right? I mean, the postcard that they sell at the National Gallery of the picture is bigger than the picture. The postcard is bigger than the picture, like 5 inches long, right? So it's absolutely tiny, which tells us something. This is important, right? Because size matters. Something I've been saying in my modern class as well, but in this case it does as well because it tells us something about the picture. A picture that is this big is not meant for public display. It's meant for private use, right? And that is meant to be looked at like this, and with your your glasses on, right? And look at closely. And we know for a fact that it is actually painted on both sides originally. That meant that there are drill holes on the side, so it's in with another word. And as you flip it over, there was something on the back of it as well. That picture's in Madrid. I mean, talk about trying to get crafty. They get 2 pictures out of one. Here's your panel, in on both sides. They cut it in half this way, right? Down the middle. So you have 2 pictures of stuff. Right? And the one that was into is missing. We don't know where it is. Right? So the other half of this is in the Thyssen collection in Madrid.
And I imagine it's a sequence or a story or...
So the other side, that's a good question. I think no. Interesting enough. Unlike the other one stuff, right? The one from the Walters Museum where it's actually for the life of Christ. The other side of this is the Virgin Mary sitting there in a niche, right? It looks like it's part of the building. So you worship the Virgin Mary. So the question that comes up out of that is why St. George, right? He's just not going to tell the story. And this is that we don't have smoking gun to prove, right? But what we do think is that it's probably was owned by somebody for whom St. George himself, just as an English, was chosen. Right? Who might that be? Somebody named George, right? I might prefer an just name her. Or somebody that belonged to an organization for whom St. George was important. Now, who was George A. Bush important for? He was the patron patron saint of military fields. Because of this, right? The patron saint of military fields. And in fact, in particular, he was often the patron saint of archery fields. Right? These are one of his big elements to work with military fields. So that makes us think that actually this work was done for a member of one of these military fields for their own private prayers. It has to be a very well-off member. And there's reasons why we think this, because Roger van der Weyden, maybe because he was city banker, had connections with certain military fields. The city, right, was protected by military fields in the city before the army, like their national guard, right? And the city of Bristol had two different military fields. One of them was dedicated to St. George. Maybe that is, right? Maybe there's our connection. But again, we don't have the smoking gun. Right? But we do know that Roger worked for these military fields on local units. I love my wife, but it's kicking me. Right? I want you to get in and look at some of the details here, right? You can see even in the distant castle there are people in the windows, right? Somebody letting down some clothing out of there. We walk through and we see banners outside of buildings and moving across. People just milling through. This guy's got brass pots hanging outside. Either a pot vendor or maybe we think it might be a blood record. Somebody where they let blood for health reasons, right? You can see the reflections in the water. Yeah, Emma. Very, very tiny brush, right? Yeah. And that's something we don't know that survives, so we don't know for sure. We do know the size of the strokes and what. That's the thing that has to be your number one tiny brush, right? You may have just a magnifier, you may not have. I don't know for sure. It's very, very detailed, right? It's like the detail we're looking at here, which is now 5 feet tall, is probably like this big on the picture, right? So, and it's phenomenal, isn't it? The amount of detail. Because of why bother? Because everything in nature is a sign of a manifestation of God. Even the man-made stuff, right? But also, I think part of it is show off. They just can, right? They're doing it because they can. And so I love this. This guy's on a horse that's coming by. There's a wicker fence around this house that's got a nice, Diluvian. This is a Diluvian plain. It's floodplain, right? Great place to grow crops. And that's exactly what they're doing. And there's a woman waiting in that little French door there. Okay.
I was wondering how such a small painting survives. Like, that's so rough. I spent money to paint it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I guess it's like the bigger ones because normally they're like couple places or like really not into that.
How does something like this survive? Well, one of it is, of course, if you've got something like this, you're going to hang on to it as well, right? You've got close parts that work that are other people. So there's that. And then I also think about this is why bother. What's the thing you do when you think about looking at nature anyway, as you walk out of this room? You guys have to look at details in a different way, How does it survive? That is the great wonder of this, right? But it also is an important thing to remember how much does not survive, right? We have just the tip of the iceberg. So for this period, Northern European art of the 15th century, I think there's roughly like 1,700 pictures in the world that have survived in this period. And we estimate that that's roughly, based on what we can tell from studies of society, that's roughly 5-10% of what was originally painted. So we're missing a lot. And it's not that we've got, it doesn't necessarily reflect the range of quality of things we're made. It's kind of measuring for 12 years from the kick ass good, right? And if you're like me and don't have a whole lot of cash, and then you just doesn't make your life long enough, but maybe I wish I could have bought that other one. I can't, so I'm going to it's cheaper and it's quicker and not like the city came with Brussels as well. You probably jack the price up even more, right? So it's a very good question, and that is for us when we study art, right? We get deep into it. One of the things that these students do is they study what's called the provenance, right? Provenance is where it came from. And that's important for us because what if somebody mistaken Roger van der Weyden and they can just miraculously appears on the market in 1965 or something like that and has no record of being owned by anybody prior to that. and purports to be since 1432. I mean, right? You know it. Well, what exactly, but then it's so good, a good forger could get a whole piece of work, right? Off a piece of furniture or something. So the list of people who voted prior to us is really important for us for authenticating that it is what we say it is, right? I'll key to this, and we'll finish this up on today. This is also Roger that testified, and if you put these pictures are white topics, right? So if you were to put this picture here, it would be like this, you know? So he's good at bold ranges, and we'll talk more about this because this is a phenomenal picture, right? Absolutely phenomenal. So we'll start on Monday with this. We'll move into Italy in the 15th century. If you want to move ahead, those of you who are looking ahead at the OER, right? 15th century Italy is our next section, and it's the next one on the page. Okay? So I'll see you guys on Tuesday, and we'll talk on Tuesday as well